Greetings, salutations, and the high and hearty salute. It is another round of Soccer's Morning Show. Soccer down here. John, hear you there. And thanks for hanging out with us on a Thursday. Got stuff to talk about, and I know that that's always the official term, that we have stuff to talk about. Obviously, the news that kind of, sort of, probably, maybe broke yesterday is the idea that we're going to be talking about things involving a new coach for the U.S. women's national team. Meg Linehan and others broke the news yesterday that Vlatko Andonovski is resigning, and nothing officially official, but there is talk that the officialness will happen today at some point. So obviously, if that happens during the show, we'll talk about it then. Talk about it today as well, since we didn't have the chance to talk about it yesterday. And in a way to kind of move the story forward, and the bat signal has been placed out for Bart Keeler, among others. How do we advance the story? We've been discussing what has gone wrong, what is wrong. How do we advance the story? Who do you bring in? What do you do on a couple of different fronts? What do you do with the veterans? What do you do with the world coming to this hemisphere in, well, I was going to say the world, that's a fait accompli in my mind, but with the next World Cup cycle, I know we're not done with this World Cup, and we're already talking about the next one, considering that the United States is not a part of the final. But what do you do going forward? There's some decisions that have to be made. Obviously, some players over the next 4 years will not be a part of the discussion. Who will be, who should be in that veteran mold. The younger players that need to be part of the discussion, the players that need to get healthy and be a part of the growth of the women's national team over the next handful of years. And I'm anticipating that the 27 World Cup will be here in this hemisphere once again, in the United States. So what do you do from there going forward? When it comes to a coach, who do you bring in? Our friends at The Athletic have a list. We'll go over that list as well. So that is probably the biggest piece of news in our hip pocket that we can talk about here today, with the anticipated official resignation of Vlatko Andonovski as the head coach on the women's side. A couple of other things that are on the docket today. Obviously, at 10:30, Niko Moreno, our friend from the Soccer Bar and Pulso Sports, will be on to give the Pacific perspective for the final half hour of the show and lay out everything in. We'll get into Women's World Cup. We'll get into Leagues Cup. And we have actual games to discuss. We've got games to talk about coming up this weekend. Atlanta United heading to Seattle to take on the Seattle Sounders. And perhaps Nico can catch up with Mike and Jason at Lumen Field on Sunday. So there's plenty to discuss there with Nico and his anticipated return on a weekly basis at 10:30 Eastern time. A couple of other things to get into this morning. We've got stuff going on overseas. Obviously, our transfers, news of the day, what to watch, where you can watch it, plot lines, storylines, all the other things that are tied to everything. We've got all of that stuff. A transfer that we thought was going to happen involving Chelsea and dropping $11 gazillion on another player, as they are always traditionally doing. That, with this particular player, didn't happen. Ends up signing a new deal with his old club, and so now Chelsea has moved on to the next target. That literally, this is like the shooting gallery game, the old shooting gallery game at the amusement park, where you see the ducks in a row and they're just kind of doing their thing, and you're trying to sit there and shoot and knock the duck over. Well, if they miss the first duck in row number 2, they're going after the next duck in row number 3, the alleged easier target. So Chelsea is still trying to gain firepower up top, and so they've moved from one player, and it looks like they're heading to the next player on their list. So we'll get into all of that stuff as well. And something interesting that I wanted to discuss this morning, and we will get into the this particular discussion. Our friends at World Soccer Talk, they're busy in their own right. They had a study come out, recommended U.S. venues to co-host the 27 Women's World Cup, was not a part of it. There was a study that Opta did. Kyle Fansler over at World Soccer Talk stumbled across it, and it appears, and I guess this could be opening kickoff. We'll go ahead and make this opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch. And once again, thanks to everybody who is invested in Kickoff Coffee and starts your day with all of their different flavors and approaches to the day when it comes to getting that first jolt of coffee goodness from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So Opta did a study. And Sports Intelligence Agency 21st Group ranked Major League Soccer as the 29th most competitive soccer league in the world. And this was earlier this year. Obviously, according to World Soccer Talk, since then, a lot has changed in Major League Soccer and other leagues around the world, including Saudi Pro. However, one thing that hasn't changed is that MLS is still ranked number 29 in the world. This time, it's according to brand new research led by Opta. Opta released new rankings for the strongest leagues in the world. Morning, Four Card. Welcome back. So Opta releases a new set of rankings for the strongest leagues in the world. For reference, once again, this is them. This is Opta. Premier League topped the list. The Brazilian Serie A was the only non-European league in the top 10. That sat number 10. Much of the focus is now, this is somewhat an interesting sentence. I would disagree with it. However, for American audiences, much of the focus has been on the battle between MLS and the Saudi Pro League. Okay. While MLS signed Messi, Saudi Arabia brought in Benzema, Kanté, Mahrez, Neymar, CR38. I don't know how much interest there is here in this country about the Saudi Pro League, but okay, I'll bite. However, despite changes to both leagues and the other competitions across the world, according to Opta, MLS sitting at 29th is not necessarily new. While Messi, Jordi Alba, and Sergi Busquets certainly make Inter Miami stronger, their impact on the league is minimal. Okay. Reserving comment for later. Popularity may be growing, but these rankings are based on a combination of form, personnel, and recent success. League rankings are based on the averages of the teams in the league. This may hurt MLS due to its sheer size. There are, ironically, 29 teams in the American top flight, even though Union, LAFC, New England, Cincinnati, Nashville, all in the top 250 clubs. Other clubs weigh the league down. For example, Toronto FC ranks 1,135th, right behind Douanes from the Senegalese Premier League and just ahead of Atletico Baleares in the Spanish third tier. Saudi Pros listed at 36. Highest ranked team in Major League Soccer is the Philadelphia Union at 155. By comparison, there are 3 Saudi Pro League clubs before the next MLS team. Al Ittihad ranks first for the Saudis, followed by Al Hilal and Al Nasser. Each of the clubs made moves in the summer. However, despite, once again, this is World Soccer Talk. Like I said, and I'm just reading their copy, reserving comment, once again, for Twitch Pitch here on opening kickoff. However, despite the top-heavy Saudi Pro League, the bottom of the league severely brings it down. 13 of the bottom 14 teams in the power rankings between the two leagues come from Saudi Pro. Only Toronto FC ranks in that bottom pack of terms in MLS. So, Top 25 leagues in the world. I will post the article in the Twitch pitch, Bam. I will do the public service. And the article is right there. Yeah, and 25 strongest leagues in the world. Premier League, Bundesliga, La Liga, Serie A, Ligue 1. Okay. I can go with the top 4. Ligue 1 listed at number 5, which is basically PSG, Marseille, maybe Lens, and a couple of others. Belgian Pro, Swiss Super League, Primera, Eredivisie, Brazilian Serie A. That's your top 10. That is your top 10. And the individual Opta article, I will post this as well from our friends at The Analyst. Go 2 for 2 here. Power rankings, obviously, Premier League. You have Opta Power. Now, this is with one thing that Opta does not do is break down, unless I'm not looking for it in the right places, key talking points. Opta, let's see, English Premier League leads the way, 20 clubs taking part in the campaign, average team ranking of 48.6. I'd like to know how you gauge what your points are. 9 of the top 10 flights in the league in Europe. 62nd for Palmeiras. Reigning Brazilian Serie A champs also in pole position reached the quarterfinals of the Copa Libertadores. Palmeiras joined in the top 100 by Flamengo and River Plate. No surprise. Only one Mexican club is placed inside the top 100. Monterrey, 95th. 1 place below Everton, 3 below Celtic. Quality, the weaker half of the league is where the Belgian Pro and the Swiss Super League are squared away. Messi Ronaldo debate, they get into it. But once again, they sit there and they give you this math, yet they sit there and it's like, okay, how the Opta Power rankings can help. Of course, if they could explain this, then we could sit there and figure it out. Okay, so here's Opta's power rankings. Global team ranking system assigns an ability to score to nearly 13,500 domestic football teams on a scale between 0 and 100. 0 is the worst ranked team in the world, 100 is the best. Power rankings updated daily and currently rank teams from 183 different countries, 413 unique domestic leagues. And earlier, back in January, they had Bayern Munich and Manchester City. Obviously, that was before everything was decided with the other leagues and things. Bayern, they listed on January 24th of this year as a perfect 100. Manchester City at a 98.32, a second. They go into FA Cup. They look at divisions. They do all these kinds of things. They look at upsets, goals by opposition, goals per 90, all of these things, minutes played. How do we calculate power rankings? Finally, we get to this. It only took 2 separate articles going back 7 months. The power rankings utilize a system that I've never heard of before. And all this is starting to make my head hurt. It's a system based to measure the strength of each team. It is a skill score, something called the ELO rating system, a skill score which has been adapted to many sports since its creation for chess player ratings, including the official world rankings for both men and women. It's an algorithm that analyzes match results since 1990 to assign a rating to each team that's comparable across leagues, countries, and continents. The aim of the system is simple. After each game, rating points are exchanged between the teams depending on the result. Whatever the home team gains in the system, the away team loses it. So basically, if the home team gains 20 points, the away team loses 20. Difference in ratings between the two teams serves as a predictor for the outcome Each team's ELO rating updates game by game. Over the long term, the system is self-correcting. Team gains or loses points relative to their corresponding rating until the ratings reflect their true strength. If a team is undervalued, they gain more points in each game until their strength is accurately represented by the system. My head hurts. My head absolutely hurts. Team rankings that were adjusted August 17. Manchester City, number 1, perfect 100. Liverpool is number 3. Leipzig, Real Madrid, Arsenal, Inter, Napoli, Manchester United, Dortmund, Barca, Madrid. Newcastle's at number 13. PSG is at 16, down a spot. Brighton is at 19. Milan's at 20, Juve 21. Brentford at 23. The number 9 team in the Premier League last season is the 23rd ranked team in this ranking here. Philadelphia's at 155. LAFC, I know, it makes my head hurt, Michael. It really does. When people go to math and they sit there and they try to rank things this way. LAFC at 233. Then in order when it comes to just in order of franchises in Major League Soccer. Philadelphia, LA, New England, Cincinnati, Nashville, RSL, Crew, Dallas, NYC at number 9. Red Bulls at 10, Vancouver at 11, Orlando, Minnesota, Inter Miami up 59 spots, no surprise. Atlanta ranked 22nd in MLS in this ranking system, 609th overall. And Toronto dead last at 1137. But with all of this stuff, the claim being that Major League Soccer is the top 20, is a 29th ranked league internationally, according to this math thing that got broken out. By our friends at Opta. All the more reason to distrust math, period. Saw that this morning and I was like, oh, okay, MLS is 29th overall? Sure, okay. Then you get into the math for this thing. And you're going league. Okay. So those are the articles. I saw that this morning. I was somewhat intrigued, and now my head hurts. So there you go. That's your opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Once again, thanks to everybody who has invested in Kickoff Coffee. Very, very cool stuff. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. They take 15% off your purchase and then take 10% reinvested into youth games and youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So let me see if your head hurts just as much as mine. Yeah, Emilio, there are 29 leagues in the world. I mean, if you take each and in every country, here in the United States, you've got MLS, Next Pro, Championship, League One, however deep they want to go. So you've got at least 4. You can keep going there. Yeah, Nile, you're not the only one. Nile's like, I don't care about the Saudi League, to be honest. You're not the only one. This was going to be a question that is recurring for me, for all of you and with you folks. Are you interested in the Saudi Pro League? Are you going to watch? Do you care? Did that first weekend of activity change your mind? Did the Jordan Henderson and Al Ittifaq, did that change your mind about the Saudi Pro League? Just genuinely curious. Morning, Jarrett. You're not killing people?
Nothing changed my mind about the Saudi Pro League, though.
Yeah.
What happened with the Saudi Pro League? What did they do
now? Just the idea that Opta came out with a study. I was in opening kickoff.
Oh, okay.
And Opta came out with a study that with their math has made my head hurt. Basically, they say that Major League Soccer is the 29th most competitive league in the world.
Okay.
29th on a worldwide stage. 29th strongest league in the world, according to Opta, and that's even with the Saudi Pro League.
Okay.
And so it was looking at their parameters of trying to figure out how it is and how it's done. We went into math. Apparently, Atlanta United is like the 629th strongest team in all of world football. And Philadelphia is the first team amongst Major League Soccer teams at 153rd, I think. And then it goes downhill from there.
And Philly had some thoughts on the way we should do things.
Yes, and that is what we were going to be getting into as a part of all of this. See, you're reading the rundown, and that's you know, it's like your
segue is more than a little thing you see riding around Atlanta getting hit by cars.
Correct. And so, since we are now officially out of opening kickoff, after losing to Inter Miami, Tommy Scoops does a story over at The Athletic. Jim Curtin and Alejandro Bedoya, and this is Tom Bogert's words, signaled support for loosening roster restrictions in Major League Soccer to allow clubs to spend more freely. Inter Miami, after signing Messi, Busquets, Jordi Alba, sparked a fresh debate about the best strategic path forward for MLS as owners like Jorge _Mas, David Tepper, Merritt Paulson, more continue to advocate to spend more money to grow the league. Quoting Curtin, I think the league rules are going to change. Him coming here is going to change a ton, and it should. The training wheels are off, him meaning Messi. So Inter Miami signs Messi and Busquets to 2 of their 3 DP slots. Gregory, right now, is your third, a strategic choice to be able to add 3 U22s, but it capped that third slot. Miami, in turn, spent $15 million on transfer fees to sign Tomas Aviles, Facundo Farias, Diego Gomez. Alejandro Bedoya, quote, look, I think it's great for the league. You hear things that maybe something will change in the offseason, but we'll see. There's no secret that money well spent allows you to bring in more quality players, more quality depth. Moss and other owners vocal at the owners' meetings around the All-Star game in D.C. about loosening restrictions. Though not all owners spoke with the media, the lower spending clubs who are likely to oppose big changes didn't voice their opinions publicly. Curtin, quote, they're only going to get better. That Miami team is going to go. Their ownership is going to spend like crazy and make them the best team in the league. They might already be one of the best teams in the league. Philly, in numbers, 22 in salary spend this year ahead of the summer transfer window. Their club record transfer fee is $2.8 million. Miami spent more than $2.8 million on 3 different transfers this summer alone, none of which were DPs. The Union would stand to lose ground. Once again, this is Tom Bogert's words. Union would stand to lose ground on rivals should wealthier clubs be allowed to invest more. Quoting Bedoya one final time, we'll see what happens in the offseason. Miami are pushing the envelope. It's good for the league. It's good for soccer in our country and our region. With the World Cup coming here, we find ourselves at an inflection point. Curtin says that's coming, and I don't think anything is stopping that. So,
I mean, I agree with him, but yeah, Philadelphia is going to be one of those teams we look at, though. Well, yeah, I'd love for him to loosen the purse strings. I don't know how much Philadelphia is going to take advantage of it.
Correct. And that was the interesting point for me in all of this. It's like, so
I think they're right, though.
Yeah, Curtin and Bedoya are talking about the loosening of the purse strings and all of that in the context of a club that wants to build from within and have a lot of young talent, move them on, reinvest in your academy, continue to build from within, and then bring in a guy over the top that's not going to break the bank.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting. That was an interesting perspective from Curtin and Bedoya, considering how Philly grows themselves, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they would go about it, how other teams would go about it. I mean, 'cause, yeah, you do need to open the purse strings because, look, despite the fact that Nashville took down 2 of the Goliaths of Mexican soccer, and that's great that they did, more often than not, that's not what's been happening, and it's tough. It's tough to compete
Mm-hmm.
with with these behemoth clubs from Mexico.
Yeah.
You're going to have to open the purse strings.
Mm.
So if you because look, Nashville beating both of those teams is an upset, even though it's in Nashville.
Yeah.
I get it; they have home field in those games, and Nashville was that's a really weird game, but they were damn impressive. It still is an upset.
Mm-hmm.
So you will at a point need to open things up. Can't be afraid. So go
Or
figure it out.
get a dog. One of the two.
I mean, yeah, but nobody seems to actually want to get the dog part. Uh, so often when we talk about this, we tell them if you're afraid, get a dog. They don't get a dog, but they stay afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, if you're going to expand it out, figure out how you're going to expand it. Um, that's going to be something they have to work on. In the same sense that, look, Miami's going to have stuff to work on too, because you want to talk about what's going to happen with Miami. Let's talk about Miami 2 years from now.
Yeah.
3 years from now, when Messi is maybe not done, but winding down.
Yeah.
How does Miami continue the momentum post Messi? And I don't know the exact answer to that. I'm not saying I do. I'm not saying they have to have it right now. But that challenge for them at the time will be, hey, you had Messi come in. So far, it's been damn fun. There is doom and gloom amongst many in the United States who are not Miami fans over this. But the trick is going to be, I want to see how you maintain the momentum post Messi.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Well, and that's the element in this that you're talking about all of this short term stuff, and I think that right now, Inter Miami this season, next season, and then what's my math here? We're in 23, so probably toward the end of the 24 season is when Inter Miami and anybody that wants to spend like Inter Miami is going to have to try to figure out, okay, how do we compete? You've got, a 2.5-year deal, 1.5, probably a 2.5. So in the 24 season, Inter Miami's got to figure out, okay, who's the next NIL deal that we're going to sign and have them come over here if we're going to continue to have this kind of churn in the water where you bring over all these folks. I mean, is it Antoine Griezmann? Because Griezmann said that he's been keeping an eye on Major League Soccer and that when his time is up, whenever that time is up, he is committed to following Messi to Major League Soccer to close out his career.
Okay.
Is Griezmann that next big dude? Is there somebody else that we're not thinking about that wants to have the quality of life element that's attached? That's, something like that, where you see the articles that are going that they're talking about with Lionel Messi. Yeah, he could have made $11 gazillion in Saudi Arabia, but dude's living the life here. He's making 40 or 50, but he's chill. He's absolutely relaxed. And so who wants to take that quality of life element over the salary element and come over here? And Griezmann has basically said he doesn't rule out a move. And this is he spoke to the media yesterday about this. I've always said that my objective would be to end in Major League Soccer. Ending in Major League Soccer for Antoine Griezmann. Like to play and to enjoy playing there, competitive to win there, and I can play at my top level. I think it would be interesting, but the thing is, and I think we're now, if I'm wrong, yell at me, but I think that, a lot of folks thought that Major League Soccer is the retirement league. It's like, okay, dudes in their 30s want to come over here and retire and do whatever.
If they're still doing that, they're not paying attention and they're trolling.
Right.
Because we're past that. Like, the league is past that. Now, if people still want to do that, then it's trolling, and it's very comforting when they do, because then you can know that cool. I don't really need to give you the time of day, because that's just not how it is anymore. Like, yeah, there's instances where teams bring in older players, absolutely, but teams are not building themselves on the concept of retirement leagues. It's not how it's functioning right now in MLS. That's how you feel like it is. That's between you and God.
Yep.
But if that's their default answer, then there's a certain comfort in knowing, you're just trolling. Cool. Okay. Well, I'm going to carry on, and I'm going to carry on about my day.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to troll, That's cool, man. Like, do you? But just be honest about the troll.
Yeah.
Be honest about the fact that you're trolling everybody.
Well, but if you're trolling, I think by nature you're not being honest. So, I mean, it would be the rare individual that would sit there and say, "Yes, I'm trolling you," openly about these kinds of things. I think if somebody wants to troll, it's because they have an agenda, and they're not going to sit there and expose their true selves about all of this kind of stuff.
You got players coming from all over the world of all walks of life at this point. It's not what it was, 8-9 years ago. It is what it is at that point.
Emilio says that Miami's model's flawed.
Okay.
It's not sustainable at that level. You can get 3 to 4 significant DPs if you need a solid base, if you have a solid base of the rest of the team.
And then, so here's the question then. Can Miami basically use this time with Messi to build a long-term sustainable model? Like, can Messi be the basically he is the Hodor holding the door back while you build something bigger and better? Can he be that?
Well,
Because I think they're going to have the talent.
Yeah, and
I mean, they're going to bring in young talent.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, my question is when Messi is gone,
Mm-hmm.
he won't stay forever.
No,
because he's in his 30s. It's not meant as an insult. Because again, Father Time is in fact undefeated, whether you walk away on your own or whether you are forced out by Father Time.
Yep.
How do they carry this momentum post Messi? I'm interested to see. And I don't say that in a way to say that they're going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I want to see how they do it to take something that, you had a really weird start to your existence.
Yeah.
And then, you had a really weird start to your existence. You hit let's call it a lull, in your existence where you just couldn't seem to get out of your own way. But what are you going to do when he's done? Like, how do you build off of what he is helping you to create?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I mean, that's the key. And the one thing I did not know, and I just found out, as Hutch was trying to pin down how old Messi is, Messi and I have the same birth date. June 24th. I was not aware of this.
So what we need is to switch roles. We need Messi to cover Corky Kill.
Well, I think that if you could sit there and go,
John to anchor the line for to lead Miami into battle.
You don't want that. It would be looking like Sergei Krivtsov trying to try to lead the scoring for Inter Messi CF. But no, I mean, and I think there's been talk, and we use that word just in quotation marks and probably boldface and italicized. There's been talk that they're looking to add the 4th DP and boost the salary cap to a level of what it was supposed to be in 27.
Okay.
7 million, I think, was supposed to be the cap. You've got to go larger than 7 million. You can't do that. The 4th DP, I get, I'm down with, and that's cool. But you've got to take the training wheels off. You can't just do a cap of 7 million, which was supposed to be something for 4 years from now. when you've got owners like the ones with the Mosses who want to sit there and bring in all of this talent. You can't just pin it to $7 million, although I think you've got to have a floor in addition to having a ceiling.
You do. I mean, that's the thing is like, do you install a ceiling? Do you install when you install the ceiling? Do you install a floor so you don't get an Oakland A's or a Miami or
Yes.
a Miami Marlins?
Yes.
They're still the Florida Marlins in my heart and soul, so
Absolutely.
they always will be. Jeffrey Loria can take a long walk off a short pier. Low key, so can Derek Jeter. Controversial opinion incoming. I loved the giant weird ass statue. It was such a unique, dumb thing. And once you had committed to the bit to put that weird giant statue out in left center field, I was kind of great with it. Like, cool, man. This is gonna be Miami's weird thing, and I'm just gonna roll with this. And then they took it down because nobody in Miami likes fun. You chose to just embrace the stupid weird. And yeah, that was probably Jeffrey Loria doing that. For all we know, there was some shady business dealings associated with it.
Shady business dealings involving the Marlins?
Point being, you had gone through it all.
Uh-huh.
And then you take the damn thing down. No. Embrace your stupidity.
Uh-huh.
I am begging you.
Yeah.
The computer agrees.
Yeah, no kidding. Antivirus things decide to pop up at the worst times.
They do. But yeah, embrace your stupidity, Miami Marlins. I'm still mad at you for not embracing the just absurdity that exists there. But yeah, I want to see who else and how else everybody would do this, because we know that Atlanta is gonna spend in some way, shape, or form, even if it's not going and dropping, even if they don't drop another $16 million on a Thiago Almada kind of guy, they're still going to spend. We know that LA is going to spend. We know both LAs are going to spend.
Yeah.
We know that hell.
And when the second one is eligible to spend, yes, they will.
Yeah. We know that Sporting Kansas City is going to spend, man. Like, Sporting Kansas City is willing to go do stuff. We know that these places will spend money. And I hope that Nashville taking a couple of Mexican giants down will encourage them all to, hey, this is possible. Now, it shouldn't be, oh, we're good right now. No, you're not. That's kind of an outlier. I really thought Monterrey was going to win that game eventually, and that game is so weird because you have the goal, the Hani Mukhtar goal pulled back for offside, and have you discussed that with Bart yet? Because I'd love to get Bart's opinion on it, because we've talked about like the interpretation before, about how you interpret offside and impacting the play. But then you have like the weird not giving penalty and just pro going to pro and CONCACAF going to CONCACAF. But I want to see what the ceiling looks like for all this. Yeah. And you have to spend to get to the ceiling.
Yeah, and we have not gotten into reffing down here this week with Bart. We have not. We had as he was taking the younger brother to GCSU, Bart was doing safe passengering yesterday, and we kind of got into things involving the World Cup itself, and I'm still waiting for the official notice of Vlatko. And then I imagine that Bart is going to answer the bat signal and come charging in for that. It was announced yesterday. Vlatko has resigned. We've had nothing officially official. When that does happen, obviously Bart will hop in. And then we can get into reffing down here, because I'm hoping he'll be in his office instead of being a passenger in a car, taking his younger brother to GCSU and making sure that the furnished department didn't have to have anything where you needed to pivot when you're trying to put things into the apartment. But no, we have not gotten into reffing down here with a lot of the shenanigans that happened in Nashville and all of that. Point that was made. Where was it? Michael. I'm fairly certain Messi has played in Ligue 1 on turf, because there are some places that not everything is grass in Ligue 1, but like I said, I would be more concerned with schedule compression and with international duty, because I know everybody's sitting there and wondering about this match in front of 140,000 people at Mercedes-Benz on the 16th of September. I would be more concerned about schedule compression and with international duty. And one of those matches is in La Paz, and La Paz is not sea level. And I would be concerned about the same thing with Thiago Almada as well when it comes to
La Paz is not sea level might be the best understatement this show's ever produced.
Yes, Hudson, that's a T-shirt. La Paz is not sea level.
That's going to be interesting. And to this, because I saw everybody was getting in themselves about this yesterday. I don't know that Messi or anybody has said or implied yet that he won't play on turf. I haven't. If I've missed that, I apologize. Let me know.
I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, I think he's played on it in Ligue 1.
Because I mean, not every surface in Ligue 1 is grass, and so I'm fairly confident that in his time in Ligue 1 he played on turf.
At the very least, man. Like it's so funny because we're doing the whole Messi's coming to Atlanta thing. Like, it's also the return of Tata and Joseph. It's gonna be one of the biggest spectacles this season in MLS. Like, they flexed it to national. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No shit. Of course they flexed it to national. It's the return of two legends to a club.
And a third legend who just, and 4 and 5 legends.
The GOAT is coming to the biggest, what is consistently the most populated stadium in MLS that is going to open up and put 74,000 people in there. It's going to be bonkers.
Yes.
We'll see how everyone deals with it. We'll see how everyone. We'll see how the teams deal with it in terms of how they play. Because Miami's racking up these minutes. Like, I don't like Atlanta having 3 weeks off. Like, traditionally, going back through 17, Atlanta's been a team that has played better when they've had compression.
Correct.
Now, eventually, there's a limit. Obviously, there's a limit. But remember, going back to 17 and 18, it's a team that even, that would be kind of like, if they had an extended break or an international break, it would take them a game or two to, turn the engine over.
Yep.
It was like getting a car going on a cold morning. I want to see how they deal with it. Yeah, Ricky's right. I mean, it will be an MLS Cup level atmosphere. There's going to be a lot of emotion. There's going to be a lot of chaos, and it's going to be wild.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what the hell happens, I guess.
Why, yes, it will be. But no, it should be absolutely nuts and crazy. But no, and what I would, 5 o'clock start. Shifted for national television on the free side.
Mm-hmm.
But, this is the thing involving this roster. We got into it yesterday, and we've kind of monitored it as we go with Inter Miami, with all of these games that they're going to have in multiple competitions in a very short period of time. Not all of these guys are going to be playing all of these minutes in all of these places. That they're in their 30s and there's wear on the tires. They're not going to be playing, 5 matches in 15 days. And, 30 days has September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31. I mean, after Leagues Cup, they pushed the Charlotte match back. You've got 3 matches in 8 days. Then you've got 4 in 13 out of the blocks, multiple competitions. If you've won Leagues Cup, you're already into the Sweet 16 of the CONCACAF Champions League Hemispheric Extravaganza. That we know. Your Sweet 16 in Chile, Chile. Then you've got Red Bulls 3 days later after Open Cup. Then 4 days later, you've got Nashville once again in your rematch going to Drive Pink. Then on the 3rd of September, you're in Los Angeles at BMO. Then things calm down. Then you end up with 4 matches in 15 days that start with the Atlanta match. Plus, you're coming off of international competition. You've got 5 matches in 21 with Inter Miami alone without international competition. Kansas City at Miami, the internationals, Atlanta. 4 days later, you're hosting Toronto. Okay. Then you go to Orlando on the 24th. Then you've got a 6-day break before you play NYC at home. So you've got 4 matches in 15 days plus international competition that's tacked on to all of that. Then in October, you've got, you want to add the 2 games in 4 days there. You've got the game at Soldier Field, which is supposed to have a few people. And then you're back home to regular season against Cincinnati before you get the week off 10-14. But also on the 27th of September, if you beat Cincinnati, you're playing for the Open Cup final. So you're looking at, was that 5 in 15? If you start with 16 to 30,
well, they're gonna have to move games. That's okay. They should, because it's not even about we don't want these guys. We don't want this team to play this many. We want to stretch their other compression. No, you should move it for safety and health reasons at that point, because the compression is going to be stupid. I know this is one thing that Bart was worried about with Leagues Cup, among his many other complaints about Leagues Cup. I don't want to shortchange Bart's list of reasons.
Bart's list of grievances. Yes, Bart's list of grievances is absolutely there. Yes, Bart's list of grievances does in fact exist, and it's quite large. But now, like I said, biggest thing for me, schedule compression. Schedule compression, international duty, multiple competitions. That's what you're staring at for me. I'm not talking grass versus turf. Schedule compression, look at that first. I think that Messi maybe gives you, and like I said, this is conjecture to beat the band, but because of where things are, if you're focused on the Atlanta match, maybe he starts and gives you 45. Maybe he comes in to start the second half to give you 45. Maybe he comes in to give you 30. Because he's coming off of international duty. Same for Thiago Almada. But once again, keep an eye on all of those minutes that you're staring at for Thiago. Soccer for Good OG. For Atlanta United, what's the best psychological approach to the Miami match? A trolley tifo? A full heel turn? Leaving canes and walkers in the Miami locker room? Ricky, Atlanta doing the full heel turn should have been happened. Who physically, when it comes to the statistics, who would have no issue? Oh, the Tifo's already planned. Abby,
sorry, I don't know why my everything just decided to go to hell. Big MLS decided to shut me down. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
I was talking about Leagues Cup, so that's
okay.
my fate.
So continue to talk Leagues Cup.
Yeah, but you're gonna have a metric ton of compression. Miami should absolutely 100% not have to be dealing with playing a 25 billion games. And as much as we talk about those 3 veteran guys, I know they're old. Robert Taylor ain't that old. You're still getting production out of him, a unsettling level of production out of him.
Yeah.
You're getting production out of other guys. It's more than just
Kromoski's doing well as a young player.
Yeah, you're getting younger players who are doing stuff, and they're doing the job right now. It's that
Drake
part of it is
Calendar.
fine.
Drake Calendar, who's playing out of his mind right now.
Drake Calendar's been playing out of his mind for a while, though. Going back to last year, Drake Calendar, the only thing that's annoying for me with watching Miami, and I've ranted about it to y'all, I've ranted about it in the Discord, the amount of wasted chances against Miami is amazing, because Miami's defense is still not great.
Nope.
That's going to be a conversation for the offseason of how do they make that defense better, because it needs to get better. It's not good enough.
You ain't kidding.
But Go look at like if you really want to like get frustrated, go look at the mistakes Miami's defense makes, and then go look at like the then go look at like how they don't give up goals. Like they're like go look at the first one for Philadelphia where I forget the kid's name, the academy player rounds calendar and then like has
Sullivan?
Yeah, Sullivan has rounds calendar, and then he puts it into row F.
Yeah.
Like Miami has made mistakes, and we talk about it. Feels like every time Atlanta makes a mistake, they get punished for it. Miami's gotten let off the hook a couple times. That might not always happen, but they're also going to generate so much offense, and they're just so many magical opportunities because of what you have on the field, and not just Messi, but like he's doing that thing we talk about with great players. They make others around them better. And he does. He makes those around him better. Even if those things start to come home to roost, kind of feel like it'll be fine. Like they'll figure it out.
Yeah, folks are trying to figure out the best troll possibly or heel turn for this match at Mercedes-Benz. Kefsi, I think, is the leader in the clubhouse. Leave a table full of rice and chicken. Maybe bring that in at halftime. Bring that in at halftime. Bam is like turn the air cons off in the Miami changing rooms and only have hot water working.
Jesus. We need to send Bam to an SEC game.
Oh, see now if you took Bam to Baton Rouge at night.
Oh my God.
That's
not safe.
No, and Emilio is spot on. Sorry, Joseph's the enemy. He's not exempted from hacking. Not at all. Not one bit. Kefsi's saying, bring the bless your heart approach on the 16th. And Parzival's just waiting to see MLS have Miami conveniently, in quotation marks, play against LA, LAFC, and this year's MLS Cup winner. We already know both LA teams will have the game in the Rose Bowl. Well, maybe LAFC. I don't know if LAFC.
Played one in the Rose Bowl and
the other at the Mausoleum.
Maybe played at the Coliseum.
Yeah. Michael Head with that offense they're scoring against is pretty good, giving up one goal their last two games. But Philly with all of the chances.
If that's the thing, man, Philly had so many chances. Trent Callender made 2 or 3 saves that were out of this world. And you want to get into like the way that game changed, like, hey, Philly, come out of the blocks playing like that. Don't come out of the blocks playing a half block where you're sitting back. You didn't exactly pull a Chris Armas, but you showed up in Chris Armas's neighborhood from 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Don't overthink this stuff. I'm begging you. Do not overthink it. Nashville will be interesting, though, because, Nashville can pop you on the counter. Nashville slap you around on the counter real good. Miami, not necessarily overly fast.
Yeah, especially at the back.
Yeah, especially at the back. How do they deal with that counter that Hani Mukhtar is going to unleash on you? But at the same time, Miami's pretty damn chill about the idea of Miami is pretty damn chill about the fact that, you want to sit back? Cool. We got this guy. He's good at dealing with that.
He has his moments. Let's see. Niall talking about the match with Philly and Inter Miami. Curtin got outcoached. I think Curtin outcoached himself.
Yeah, I think both things are true, though. I think he got outcoached. He made the adjustments in the second half, but game state has to be considered, as it always does. But yeah, man, he just is like he outthought himself. He panicked and he decided to get weird when he didn't need to, and then all of a sudden, like it's kind of like by the time you you had 2 goals in 10 minutes. Like by the time you figure it out, and Andre Blake getting beat on.
From 30 plus.
You don't expect him to get beat on, where he's kind of like, hey, he's too far out. He's shooting. Oh, that's pretty good. Oh God. But
Oh,
yeah, man, it's just I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see how everyone shows up, how everyone plays.
uh-huh.
Does Joseph celebrate again?
Yeah.
Um, do we get people getting really mad about it again? Like,
Do people throw chicken and rice on the pitch? Those kinds of things. Oh, you wanted reffing down here, by the way?
yeah,
We now have reffing down here because
yay!
he's in his what's the mug this morning, Bart?
Good morning, Baltimore.
Good morning, Baltimore.
The musical Hairspray.
It's from Hairspray. Now that Bart has moved folks into Georgia College and State University, he's back in Studio Bart. And Jarrett had questions involving reffing down here.
Ooh, okay.
And so, Jarrett, go for it. Since we have withheld reffing down here until a stable environment. Go with your reffing down here questions, and we'll go ahead and start with that before we get into Blatt Go.
So I want to ask about the Nashville goal disallowed because because Jason and I have talked about it ad nauseum before about the idea of how do you decide the impact of a of a player being quote unquote offside and impacting the play.
That's a tough one because I think with VAR, we're seeing that this call continues to come up, and it continues to look different every single time that it's interpreted. And I personally did not think that Nashville goal was offside. I don't think that they got in the view of the goalkeeper to a point that, especially that it altered their ability to save it. It was a very fleeting moment. I don't ever think that he really crossed the line of sight of the goalkeeper to the point where it was really that impactful. But I'm with you, and Jason and I have also had this conversation where it's really frustrating that we don't know what exactly impeding or, infringing in that instance is. I don't know, Jarrett. I don't know.
but that's why I wanted to ask you about it, because to your point, it feels like we're always just guessing, man. Like, hey, what is the ref gonna roll the dice and if it clears 15, it clears the dexterity check.
It does feel that way because, especially with the Nashville goal, I mean, we've seen it where it's pretty obvious where there's a player in front of a goalkeeper and you're like, okay, yeah, maybe they didn't do a whole lot, but they're right in front of the goalkeeper or they're very much in the line of sight, or you can see where they distracted or was in the way of the goalkeeper. This one, again, I don't know. I don't know. And they really do need to feel I feel like they need to come up with a better kind of checklist for referees in the VAR setting to identify what does interfering with a goalkeeper or impeding a goalkeeper's progress or whatever you want to call it. What does that mean? That I think would be a good step at this point because there are too many cases where the referees, the VAR, they're kind of not guessing, but they're making up interpretations as we go.
So how many folks lit up your timeline during that particular moment and were wondering about, what's going on here? Well, if Muil is moving and impacting peripheral vision, or did the keeper start his move early and all these kinds of things? I mean, how was this number one for you in reffing down here when this moment happened?
This week was definitely was the most obvious one we're talking about. I will caveat this by saying that unfortunately they didn't go to win, but anytime Nashville has some sort of referee decision go against them, I think it's a good call. So that was kind of my thought process was, well, it happened in Nashville, so good. But
yeah, I was cackling when it happened. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
right? Yeah,
Also,
especially because it was such a good goal.
Also, I have not liked Alex Mouille going back to his New York Red Bulls days because he still has a lot of Red Bull in him, and it annoys me. And then he just like for no reason jumps up and like a sea lion reaching up for a horn at SeaWorld and then just misses. It was so weird. Yeah, it was so weird, and I wanted to get your opinion on it because it's divisive all the time.
I don't think it and also as a goalkeeper, I don't think that interfered with the goalkeeper's ability to save the shot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
100%.
I don't know. I mean, I guess what they're saying, and this is where I will try to do my Christine uncle and defend the referees a little bit. And it definitely was an attempt to play. It wasn't like they just ran in front of the goalkeeper, right? Or they were just standing there. The attacker made an attempt to actually make a play on the ball, which was in flight, which the goalkeeper was going to have to save. My thought process was the goalkeeper was already trying to make the save. Right. So I don't really think that they were going to – I don't think a header from an attacker was going to somehow alter the unless they're Superman and can literally fly and change direction in air. I don't think that was going to affect their ability to save it or not.
Okay, then there are two other incidents, and they're both Leagues Cupian that I wanted to get to before we get into Vlatko. And I want to advance that story. I mean, we're like I said, we're on the under the understanding that he is going to have a public resignation put forth on all the media that is social, and we'll get to that. We know that that's coming. So, two other moments. One is in Nashville, in and of itself, but it's the Club America match. The end of the Club America match before we had the end of the Club America match, and it has to do with reffing and being in control of a situation and having all of the chaos going on around you. And we haven't gotten the true explanation of, okay, Jack Mayer's shot is saved and all of that. And then you end up with 5 minutes, and then you end up with a re-kick, and you end up with chaos and 18 to 20 arrests and a non-contact injury with security. Now that you've had time to kind of ingest that moment as well, when you look back at that, we still don't have a whole lot of the details as to the 5-minute delay.
Yeah. So I think what bothers me is, to your point, John, I think there could have been an element of hold the players. We don't want people to get hurt. There are people running under the field, safety. But I think what would have prevented that is you should have, and this is why I'm confused about the process, because you have a penalty kick shootout. I mean, we saw this in the Women's World Cup this past week. A goalkeeper makes a save. The immediate response should be, okay, yeah, we're good here on the field. Hold up. Let's make sure we're good up top. It shouldn't take years, because that is an almost instantaneous check. You know, you go through and you go, okay, let's get it. So I'm wondering now, was there a delay in the VAR room even being able to view the feed? I don't know. Because to me, that is a fairly it shouldn't take more than 10 seconds for them to go, yeah, we got to check this. Okay, we're checking it. Yeah, he's off the line. The whole process should take 30 seconds. And at that point, it should also signal to both teams like, hey, we're not done here. Like, we got to make sure. And that's also a little bit on the teams for not understanding that. They should also be aware that during the penalty kick shootout, you do need to make sure that the goalkeeper wasn't off their line. But that to me was interesting, because the delay, I think, in stating that they were checking things almost made the situation worse, rather than waiting for the bad situation of the field invaders to die down before even doing the check. They got the whole process wrong. I don't have any insight. I don't know why it took so long. That I think that's why I'm confused too, John, because it shouldn't. The process is very linear. You take the kick. The goalkeeper saves the kick. The referee and the AR look at each other and go, well, I think we're good. I'm also questioning why the assistant wasn't able to be like, I don't know. I think he was off his line because it was pretty clear that he was about 6 inches off his line when the ball was even kicked,
Right.
And then felt like one where you catch it in like that. It wasn't like he just barely came off, man. I felt like that should have been one you get in the moment.
I agree. And that was, I think for me, Jared, that was why I was so frustrated. It was like, yeah, he's clearly off his line. So what is the assistant referee doing on the side? Like that's his one job, so you have the ability to say, nah, let's put your flag up and go, he was off his line. And at that point you can check it, and be like, okay, no, he wasn't. You go, sorry, my bad. Even though we would have been right in that situation. So I think their delay actually made the situation worse. That was just I think the referees got a little too excited and caught up in the moment.
Well, and my other Leagues Cupian point is just the implementation of VAR and its inconsistency in the tournament, because you go to the Mukhtar Mawil moment, and then on the other side, you have the McNaughton, really what should have been a penalty, and VAR had it right there. And they didn't give McNaughton a penalty and let it go. And I think that as we go forward in Leagues Cup, the implementation of VAR and those who are in charge of VAR and who are VARs, this really has to be fine-tuned in this tournament going forward.
Well, I will say, I think one of the issues is we're not using just MLS and Liga MX officials. These are CONCACAF officials. That's something that CONCACAF wanted, and I agree with, right? On the whole, they wanted to get more CONCACAF officials involved because these are just much higher level games than even a lot of the CCL games, right? Or Champions Cup, whatever the hell we're calling it at this point in time. CONCACAF Tournament of Champions for Champions.
The CONCACAF Champions League Hemispheric Extravaganza.
Yeah. The Champions Extravaganza of Champions Cups.
Yes.
I think that's one of the issues too, is you just have too many inconsistencies with refereeing. And again, I think that maybe is you're going to have to deal with some growing pains when it comes to refereeing to get refereeing better. And this is a little bit one of those growing pains because you just have a lot of officials who on the field are different than your VAR crew or are different from each other even on the field. And I think that is a little too much inconsistency because when you go to like a CONCACAF, like a Gold Cup competition, right? CONCACAF picks those referees, trains those referees a little bit before the tournament. I don't know what that process would have been before Leagues Cup because it is kind of a, spur of the moment. It's not like you have a break before Leagues Cup the same way you do like a Gold Cup, right? Like teams have a whole week or two training camp. The referees get in, they're pulled from, I don't know what that process was for Leagues Cup. I don't think it was very long, especially because you have MLS officials and others who, may have been in season. So I just think that you're going to have some growing pains, but the problem is that it's been with process implementations, not necessarily calls on the field. And I know you can always get mad at calls on the field, and those are not fixable, but part of sport. You're just going to have a referee make a bad call. It's they didn't get this process right, or they didn't go through the list of things that they're supposed to go through on that checklist correct. And that, to me, I mean, again, going back to the Nashville penalty kick shootout, that was a process problem. Not a did you get the call right or not problem. That was a process problem. And those are the things that you want to try to eliminate in refereeing circles because that makes the game it's a better managed game.
All right, let's spin.
Before you ask a question, John, I have a question for you.
Okay, well, go ahead and
I don't know if I've noticed this T-shirt before. Alderson brought us.
Yeah, it is new to the stacks, and it is a salute to those who are the dearly departed. Considering
Philippi's a cute little town.
What is going on currently at Alderson Broaddus,
Yeah.
for those who are not aware, is that the university lost its accreditation. And so this close to athletic seasons, you now have athletes for a D3 school. I think they're D3 that
D2.
are now D2. Now they're looking for new homes. And so I have both the football T-shirt and the soccer T-shirt for Alderson Broaddus to show respect for the dearly departed.
When I was at WVU, I played on our men's club volleyball team, and we would scrimmage the AB men's volleyball team a lot. Lenore Ryan played Alderson Broaddus down there. Really nice football stadium for a D2 program.
Yeah.
And then, it was sad to hear. I mean, West Virginia's going through a bunch of problems from a university standpoint as well. But yeah.
No, but yes, no. I you know me. I am the patron saint of lost causes and the little guy. So any chance I get to wear anything that is a silent recognition or protest, I'm going to do it. Before we get into Vlad Go, and I want to advance
Vlad Go.
Before we get into, I want to advance that story because we've had the discussions about what he is ultimately responsible for and all that. Interview came out in and around Serena Wiegmann, and Chloe Morgan over at The Athletic got to sit down with Mark Bullingham, the chief executive of the FA, and women's technical director Kay Cossington in Australia. And obviously part of the discussion involving Serena Wiegmann is, hey, can we buy her out and get her over here as quickly as humanly possible? And apparently she's under contract until 2025 and, allegedly, possibly, probably, maybe, we think. So the question was involving Serena Wiegmann's salary and parity, 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 with men's manager Gareth Southgate. Bullingham, quote, if you look at the disparity in the market and the income coming in, that's why you have a difference. We don't talk about people's remuneration. Serena is, within the market she operates, well paid. If you look at the comparison in the men's game, it's a different market. I really want those markets to merge over time where you've got to go, but we're not there yet. We look at the gap between the men's and women's players and what they're paid. The average annual salary in the WSL is less than the average salary in the Premier League for a week. We have brilliant football being played by the Lionesses and actually all the teams in this tournament, and I think they're showing that there's demand for that. That, meaning pay parity, is the long-term objective and where you've got to get. We are a not-for-profit, and every decision we make has a consequential impact. So if we take money from one area, then it has to come from another. I want to continue building up her salary for sure, and that's the long-term objective. But if you were to do that now, you'd have to be taking money from somewhere else.
Yeah. So I think this is the unfortunate reality that when we talk about, it's the unfortunate reality when we talk about equal pay when it comes to men's versus women's is they want to fall back on the market price. And unfortunately, that is a valid reason for them to not, it's not a good reason, but it is valid. That said, Vlatko, we know, was at about 500-ish a year. And I think that probably would have been on the high end, obviously, this year for being at the World Cup. I don't think he got too many bonuses because we only got one round of knockouts. But we know that Vlatko is around 500,000, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's actually a decent salary for a women's soccer coach, both professionally and at the national team level. We've had this conversation with Berhalter where we know that national team managers tend to make less than club managers for a lot of reasons, one of those being that their duties are less. But in the women's game, it's a valid reason or a valid claim that the national team manager is actually a little bit more important and busy than on the men's side because of the importance that women's football, international football, has to the season, if you will, of women's soccer, especially globally, right? I think a lot more people pay attention to the women's national team breaks than they would the women's club, seasons. And that's because the club game is behind the national spotlight, if you will.
Right.
But yeah, Viekman's going to cost a lot of money. Let's just put it that way. I mean, she's going to cost a lot of money. I agree that we'd like to get those salaries closer. I'd love to know what Herbert Renard was making, because that's a good kind of a good case study, right? He was just at a men's World Cup. Now, granted, he was being employed by the Saudis, and they just throw money at everything. But, his salary wasn't at the top end. I think he was in the top 10 or 15. But if we know that, like, for example, Greg Berhalter's at 1.8 on the high end, and we know that Vlatko's at 5,500,000 at his high end, that's a gap, and those are the women's national team. The U.S. women's national team is a much more high profile job than the men's national team. I'm just one of those, brings in way more money, which we have seen that's true. That brings in more money. It's definitely a more important job. You're talking about a team that's won 4 World Cups, 3 gold medals. So I don't know how we get them to come together, because at the end of the day, also, money is a scarce resource. And a lot of these FAs that barely want to pay the women's players are not going to step up and pay their coaches all that much more money. So that is, it's just an interesting discussion about all of this, John, because it's not just about buying out her contract. It's then, what are you going to pay her? Because she's not going to leave if you're not paying her a significant amount more. If it's, let's just say if she's at 500,000 and you're like, we'll give you 6. Is that enough to get her from the best team in the world right now? I mean, no. I don't know.
No, I think you're gonna have to set a precedent. If you're going to chase after Serena Wiegmann, you're going to have to set a precedent in international soccer on the women's side. If you're going to bring her over, because first off, you got to buy her out, unless she's going to claim breach because of markers that were allegedly set. And so far, do we know if they've been met when it comes to bonuses, getting paid, and taking care of your players? If that doesn't happen, is that breach? Can she jet, or is she under contract through 25? Right. Is she bought out? That some corporate folks will cut a check in a heartbeat. All you got to do is talk to Jimmy Rain down at Yellowwood, and he'll cut a check for something in the Southeastern Conference involving Auburn like that. If you had a soccer version of Jimmy Rain to bring in Serena Wiegmann, that they would do it.
Yeah.
So we've got to, keep an eye on Serena Wiegmann. Now, to move the story forward on Vlatko, which is going to be the new headline, I guess, or the hashtag. At least we're creating it here anyway. Who are you looking at outside of Serena Wiegmann that should be considered? That it's either, obviously, and you can do this with tiers or however you want to do it. Ones that you've got to look at, bar none.
Yeah.
Who's below the radar that you can take a flyer on? That kind of stuff, because then you've got to get into player decisions and what you want to do philosophically, how you're going to build with the younger talent that's there. How much of the veterans do you sit there and say, thanks for your time, cut the hard times promo and here's your pocket watch, that kind of stuff. Who are you looking at now once Vlatko becomes official?
Well, let me kind of set my criteria and a little bit of the process that I think we need to be aware of, because everyone wants to throw out names, and let's set criteria first, right? Personally, I would love a manager who has international experience. I think that was the biggest flaw in hiring Vlatko. And I also want to make sure that people remember hiring Vlatko at the time was a good decision.
Yeah.
People were very on board. He turned out to be very bad at a tough job. Okay. I think hiring a manager who has international managerial experience will be very helpful. You don't have them learning on the job how to be an international manager. You don't have them trying to figure out and mesh their club mentality with the national team, because we know they're different, John. We've had that conversation ad nauseum as well. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. I know some people are like very staunchly, they want men's versus women. It doesn't need to be a male or female. I don't think it's as important. But I would like someone who has been coaching in women's soccer as well. So to me, that kind of is those are my criteria. You have been a women's soccer coach and you have some international experience. So my list is a little different than others. I do like the idea of interviewing Laura Harvey. I'm not convinced that Laura Harvey is a drastically different coach than Vlatko. She does have international managerial experience, but only at the youth level. She's someone who a lot of fans like, but the problem that I do have sometimes with women's soccer fans is they don't necessarily always want to hire someone for being the best choice, but they just hire them. They want them to be considered because they like them, which is fine. So I would interview Laura Harvey.
Okay.
I don't know if she would be my choice. The other ones that I would interview, one who is also currently coaching in NWSL is Mark Parsons. Obviously, his time with the Netherlands didn't go all that well, but I think that he could take the lessons, hopefully, that he learned from that and apply them to the women's national team here. I also think, as we found, the Dutch are weird, and the fact that the Dutch only like to do Dutch things. And when you bring in a non-Dutch person, they get very, weird.
Mm-hmm.
That would be, that's the thing. But I think Mark Parsons would be an interesting one to consider for the U.S. job. He obviously has international experience. He's a very good women's club coach. Another one that I want to, this is my wild card, okay? This is my wild card.
All right.
Desiree Ellis from South Africa.
Okay.
She's been with that program for a long time. She has built them into a very strong program, which the U.S. women are. She's done a lot of that work for South Africa to get to the level that they are. Obviously, they get to the round of 16. I hate to say they outperformed expectations, mainly because I also expected them to get out of the group. But I think that they outperformed what most people would have thought they would have played like. They weren't just a, defensive, oh my gosh, I hope we don't concede a goal. They weren't, packing it in. They were a counterattacking team, but that's because that made sense for the talent they had. And again, that's where we need to, we have a lot of talent. I would like to see if she could evolve that to a much more forward pressing type of game. But she has club managerial experience, but she's been managing at the international level for a long time. I don't know if she would want to leave South Africa for like a lot of legitimate reasons. It's her homeland. That's, she was a founding member of that women's national team. She has nurtured the Banyana program for a decade almost. But I think that would be an interesting point because John, I think you and I have had conversations about this before where managing at the international level is not as much tactics as it is clearly communicating your ideas, keeping a good locker room, setting them up to succeed. And where did Vlatko go wrong in that is I think he had just had bad tactics, maybe too complicated. I don't know, but he clearly didn't communicate. He didn't clearly communicate whatever he wanted them to do because they didn't look like they were doing it at all. It's not like Jill Ellis had great tactics. Like that's the other thing,
But she managed players well in her last World Cup, where a lot of folks were sitting there thinking, okay, this roster might be a little outgunned.
Exactly.
But she knew what to do in a tournament situation against each team and navigated their way to another title.
And that's where obviously Vlatko failed. Is that I mean, obviously the players liked him. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing we're hearing is the players really do like Vlatko. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing is like Jill Ellis wasn't a brilliant tactician. She set up her team and she said, all right, go play. But yeah, she managed the team well. And I would like to, I'd like someone who could do that. Again, Desiree Ellis is my wild card. I think that she would be an interesting pick. Again, she has a lot of international experience. She's been around the women's game for her entire life. So that would be a very interesting choice. But I do want to cut out some names, right? Emma Hayes, not happening. Just stop. Look, she I think she's said as much. She's very happy at Chelsea. She's getting paid a lot at Chelsea to win a lot of games.
Yeah.
I don't think Jesse Marsh is a good decision either. He hasn't. I'm not saying you have to have coached women's soccer, but his name keeps coming up in all these articles, and it's just like, stop. The other one I do want to eliminate right now, and I see Abby's got it. I don't know if Brandi Chastain is the answer now.
I think she's too busy being an owner, I think, more than anything.
Well, there's that right now, too. But that brings me to kind of the problem with this whole search is in the U.S., we have to do a better job, not only just coaching education in general, because we suck at that, but we have got to do a better job of getting former women's national team players involved with coaching. Because if you say that the women's national team program, and this is you pass down the culture, you pass down this, it's something that you just get when you come in. Why not have former women's national team players involved at the U15 level and up, so that they're teaching these next generation of girls what it means to be a USWNTer, right? What it means to be in that group of iconic, legendary women. And that was what I took from that Brandi Chastain interview is, I don't think she was asking to just be handed a job coaching the youth national teams. I think she wants to be involved. And the fact that Brandi Chastain, who, yes, has an A license, is, in my opinion, the owner of the most iconic moment in U.S. soccer history, perhaps U.S. sports history. It's up there. Yeah. Why is she not involved with your youth national team programs at all? And it's something that I think there's a lot of reasons why those women didn't get into coaching earlier, or why they just didn't get into it at all. Money is, when you spend your entire 20s and 30s not making a lot of money, you got to make money somehow. Mm-hmm. But now that you have more money in the game, you have coaches getting paid better, both at club and then internationally. It's not an unlucrative spot to be in. And I'm concerned that we're not getting enough former women's national team players into coaching ranks. I mean, you look at a lot of these. Serena Wiegmann is a great example of someone who played internationally at the very early days and is now a very good coach. You look at Sylvia Neid. She didn't do well this tournament, but Boss Tecklenburg, Pia Sundhage, these are former great players. Hege Rees, that went on to manage their national teams. And you have a 4-time world champion, a 3-time gold medalist program. You have tons of championship teams to choose from. And yet we haven't had a former women's team player coach them since April Heinrichs in 2000. That to me is a big red flag and a big black mark on U.S. soccer. So why the fact that Brandi Chastain feels that the only way she can be involved is by owning a team? That's sad. That's really sad.
Susie Rack over at The Guardian says the FA insists it will 100% reject any offers for Serena Wiegmann amid a U.S. vacancy. No real surprise, but of course.
Yeah, they don't want to give the best coach in women's soccer to the best program. I mean, because again, this is where people don't want to. People from the outside want to keep telling, "Oh, the world's caught up to the U.S." Yeah, because they have Serena Wiegmann. They have great coaching. The U.S. is so far behind in the coaching department. You give the best coach to the best pool of players, the deepest pool of players, the most athletic and talented. You ain't winning the next World Cup. I mean, that's the thing,
Uh-huh. You need to chase after your allergies, sir.
I know. Actually, you know what it is? It's a lot of emotions yesterday.
No doubt about it. Yep, no doubt about it. We know about puffy eyes and sinuses, so we're right there with you. At Bartimus Prime 19 at Soccer for US POD. What's your Monday like?
Monday, I don't think I have anything.
All right, get your all-star teams and all your senior superlatives because it'll be the end of the tournament, all right?
I know, sad, but thanks, y'all.
Be good. That's Bart Keeler reffing down here, and he's saying good morning to Baltimore, which means that we bring in somebody at this time because it's Thursday. We know what that means.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Reaction Thursday, baby.
It is Reaction Thursday.
We got to talk about Leagues Cup.
Uh-huh.
Got to talk about Messi.
Uh-huh.
Got to talk about the last 10 games of MLS season.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just excited to be on with you, my man.
All right. So since you mentioned it, we have had our fair bit of chaos. We are down to the final two to determine who gets into the Sweet 16 of the CONCACAF Champions League Hemispheric Extravaganza. And right now, I mean, if I had told you at the beginning of this tournament that Intermessi CF would be at the end of this tournament chasing after this spot, which Jorge _Moss on the X, on the 280 character app, was chasing after, what would you have told me?
I would have told you that you were way too optimistic. I'm going to be very frank. I underestimated how quickly all of these players, including Lionel Messi, were going to adapt, coexist. I had no way of knowing that Tata Martino was just going to move a magic wand and get Robert Taylor to just be a whole new player and just grow game by game. I couldn't have told you that this Inter Miami team was going to score 21 goals in 6 games. So, yeah, I would have told you that you were crazy.
And, you know, it's when you see them, and we can go back to the Philadelphia matchup here and kind of discuss it. When it came to this matchup against Philadelphia, I think going in, we were all kind of sitting there and going, okay, Philly's going to do their thing. They're going to trot out the 4-4-2 diamond. They're going to be, they're going to be a little nasty. They're going to bring the sandpaper to it all. And then Jim Curtin decides he's going to go 3 at the back, out of the blocks, go against type, and then be down a goal after 3 minutes. I mean, this is one of when it comes to tournaments and decision-making, this was one of the all-time oopsies in a key moment that we've seen, I think, in recent memory. You go with the girl that brung you, I would have thought, to the dance, and then you decide, I like the homecoming queen. I'm going to ask her out. And then you bring her to the dance, and then she stiffs you, and she's going to go dance with the starting quarterback after 3 minutes. You're just kind of going, man, I should have stuck with my original date.
Yeah, I mean, he overthought it. And I mean, I guess you have to understand that you've never had to game plan against the best player in the planet and all the hype and everything that they've been doing. But I didn't like the game plan. Just like you said, I think Damian Lowe had an atrocious game. I thought that the lineup he put out was very preventive, and I get what he wanted to do, overpopulate the midfield. We're going to try to make Busquets uncomfortable. We're not going to allow quick transition moments. But he did none of that. He did none of that. And Bueno was almost out of line at times with Martinez and Fletch. It was convoluted. They didn't look like they had any sort of momentum, at least in the first 45 minutes. First 45 minutes were atrocious, right? I mean, yes, you get an early goal in a ball that everyone knew where Martinez was running to, and you still don't anticipate that. Your line is completely flat. You're ball watching. Maybe you're just amazed that you're playing with Lionel Messi, and you just forget that Martinez was going to make that run. So that puts you down early. I get it. But this is the team that has been one of the best teams in MLS, right? Most points. He's been a support shield team. They've had all this success. They know each other well. They're well coached. And at the end of the day, after that goal, it was just out of sorts for the rest of the 45 minutes. 3 goals later, you're just down so far behind that you cannot get back up. So I agree with you. I think that the game plan was wrong. I think that he overthought, Jim Curtin did, overthought what he needed to do, how he was going to approach this game, and never once in those first 45 minutes made Inter Miami defend. which is something that Dallas showed us. If you wanted to get at this team, you gotta anchor back those wing backs. You gotta attack the flanks. You gotta make Busquets have to push back and look his age. But if you're going to allow it in possession, if you're not going to even get close to pressuring Kristoff and have him get all the way to midfield and put a ball behind your back line, then I'm sorry to tell you, but you're just not going to win that game. So second 45 were better. The second half, they got a little bit of momentum back. They got some of that fight, but it was too late, man. It was just too late. Props and credit does go to, like I said, Tata Martino, Inter Miami. They look good. They look like the future champions of this tournament.
And going to the other side, you've got Nashville now. Nashville taking out Monterrey. Nashville taking out Club America in one of the craziest games, I think, in recent memory, where it's saved, then you have chaos, then you come in with VAR, and it's like, no, dude's off his line. We've got to redo it. Converted the second time through. Miss as Jonah Dos Santos comes off the crossbar. Then you have Daniel Lovitz convert. They get past Club America in one of the crazier environments, 18 arrests and a non-contact injury from one of the security folks in all of this. Then you end up with a match against Monterrey where, and we've been getting into this discussion this morning with Bart Keeler from Soccer for US POD because he does reffing, and we have our reffing down here segment, where VAR comes into play not once but twice, or at least you would have thought it would have come in once or twice. You get a goal disallowed. Hani Mukhtar goes on the gram or the IG or whatever the kids call it, and he says it's one of the worst calls that he's ever experienced. Please explain it to me. Then Lucas McNaughton, you think is going to be a penalty. It goes to VAR. Shots right there in front of you. And McNaughton, it's like he comes right over the leg of the player from Monterrey, goes to VAR, and they're like, nah. What in the wide world of sports is going on with VAR and AVARs in this tournament? It's something they got to go back to VAR school, man, before we do this again next year.
As someone who was never in the fan bus for VAR, I've always been against it, and now I've learned to like and understand a lot of the good things that come with VAR. Mm-hmm. But as someone that was skeptical, all in all, knowing, understanding it, that at the end of the day, a human being, a referee with an ego, with his own two eyes, his own brain, was going to make that final decision. VAR is supposed to just assist the referee see it differently. But if the ref don't want to see it, then he ain't going to see it. And that's what you saw in this game. I thought that the obstruction offside was outrageous. The keeper was already diving. So I would understand if the keeper was standing his line and he was shook, if he was faked out by I forgot who's the person that jumped, tried to header that ball. Then maybe I'm thinking, okay.
Yeah, Alex Muil.
Yeah, Alex Muil, exactly. So had he maybe made it difficult for the keeper to say, I'm going to go one way or the other, maybe I'd be okay with it. But the keeper's already diving. There's no obstruction. He sees the ball. So I don't get it. The PK, exactly the same thing. So these are the things that we need to improve in soccer overall, because we're not just going to blame Leagues Cup. It's not just this. We have questionable calls all over every tournament, VAR. So you're right. I think that something has to be done, specifically with the refereeing, and maybe there is a way that it's not going to happen. I'm just talking nonsense here. I was going to say if there was a way that it could be overruled by those watching it in video, but it's not going to happen, man. So all in all, we just got to do better. Yes, VAR's cool. Yes, referee's cool. This is the international tournament. It was just a bad look overall.
All right, so Nashville and Inter Messi CF. Let me go to the juice boxes. I've got to see the juice boxes in this. I want to get this all laid out here for the final. Inter Messi CF is a -105 on the road at Nashville. Nashville is a +241. Your 90-minute draw is a +274. The Union, by the way, are favored in the third place match at a minus 122, which I find interesting. But I look at these two matches and I'm sitting there thinking, okay, Intermessi CF not touching it. You're on the minus side, not going there. I'll take that one. But it's going to be interesting because of what Nashville does. They wait to pounce. They get you in transition and they're clinical. You mentioned what we saw in the Nashville-Dallas match where Dallas used Velasco and the speed on the wings to get after DeAndre Yedlin, to get after Sergei Krivtsov, to get after Kamal Miller, to get after Damian Lowe. And I don't know, Gary Smith isn't built for speed. And you also may not have a full 100% Jacob Schaffelberg in this one. So there's a lot of
tough one
mounting up against you if you're Gary Smith trying to figure out how to go up against Messi and Alba and Busquets chasing after a title.
Yeah, it's difficult. I might throw some juices in the back of the fridge at that one, to be quite honest, just because the odds are kind of nice. But I'm with you. I'm with you. Schaffelberg has been so important. He's been the perfect companion for Hani Mukhtar. Not to take anything away from Sam, who I think I got it wrong. I didn't think he was going to have that immediate impact, to be quite frank. But he's been very good. He's been very good. I could see him starting this game as well. I thought his soccer IQ was kind of shown. It was displayed well. So it's not just the scoring abilities, but the way he's holding the ball, the way he's helping on link up play. All these things were, I think, in showcase, and I'm starting to see it. So I could see a scenario where Serge starts this game and maybe makes this national team a little bit more aggressive right off the bat. But Schaffelberg, he's been important. And no knock to Fafa. Fafa does a lot of things well, and that goal was all desire, all want, a little bit of luck on the side. And I'm talking about not just the ball bouncing back, but that shot is ill-advised at the very best. I mean, he's got no angle. He's got I think it's Sam Serge who's asking for the ball right inside the 18. Nobody's on him. All he has to do is pass that ball. I'm watching this play and I'm like, pass the ball. And he knocks it in. So good for Fafa, but he's not Schaffelberg. So with that said, can Fafa maybe stretch out that Inter Miami defense? Can he be that guy down on the flanks, put in a lot of speed? I mean, you saw the way that Nashville, after 70 minutes, they really got this Monterrey defense tired. And they did it by pushing the ball wide. A lot of it was Schaffelberg, but then when Fafa came in, he noticed, hey, and he says it after the game. He says, I knew that the defender didn't want to make that run. He was tired. So I'm going to take him. I'm going to push him. I'm going to pressure him. And I'm going to go for that ball. So can Nashville do that? Can Godoy do what Brujo Martinez did not do? Brujo Martinez had an off game too. He was more worried about trying to get in people's faces and trying to dirty and muddy the waters than he did about playing soccer, man. So can Godoy, Panamanian cap, this man that he's a battle horse, can he do a little bit more on pressuring Busquets, on playing better soccer, on allowing this Gary Smith structure to maybe take away that tempo that Inter Miami tries? So if you can rub-a-dope a little bit and maybe just allow yourself to get Inter Miami closer, drop their guard, and you can push up on a quick counter, get a goal, and then you're just going to park the bus. That's all very possible. But you still have to not allow the magician, the hero, the Superman who is right now Lionel Messi from impacting the game. So it's going to be a good one. It's going to be interesting. I think Shamor and Lowitz are going to be important in this one as well. You talked about pushing the flank. I think they're underlapping and overlapping specifically and very systematical, can help out this team, create a little width. So it's going to be a good one. I don't take it past Nashville to make this game a little boring, a little hard to watch, but end up either winning this game in the 90 minutes or in PKs. Now, I'm not saying that Miami is not favorite. Of course they are. They're favored in every single way. But I would not mind putting a little juice boxes on Nashville just because the odds are so good.
And then Philadelphia having to turn around and face a Monterrey team that will have been on the road for 3 solid weeks. Monterrey, do they have anything left in the tank for a Philadelphia team that you know is going to want to muck it up and dirty it up and slow things down and push you and shove you and knock you off your pins? Do you think they have anything left?
Yeah, absolutely. And I am surprised that they're the underdogs in this one, especially if there's something that we've seen out of the Union is that when they Cruz Azulear a semifinal or a final, because they do it just as good as Cruz Azul did at one point. They really fall behind, ears get droopy, get down in their game. So I could see Monterrey, who had a lot of fighting against Nashville, winning this one. I mean, Panico was good. I thought defensively Zimmerman was immaculate. But all in all, Monterrey had their moments. Funes Mori needs to do a little bit more, right? Rogelio, someone that they really miss. Bertamer, their previous attacker, the one that killed the Sounders here, and I think had a hat trick and an assist. They really miss him. But I think with what they've shown so far, Canales, he was very mid too against Nashville. He needs to do a little bit more. Romo needs to be more aggressive, a bigger attacker. But I really do think that because the Union fell flat on their face, and Monterrey still has some fight, still has the desire to get in here and show Liga MX, because that's what they have. They're repping Liga MX. I think they're going to have more desire than Philadelphia Union. Now, Philadelphia has a little bit more to lose now, right? Because if they win, they get a spot in the CONCACAF Cup. No CCL anymore. CONCACAF Cup. And Monterrey they already have a spot.
Yep.
So if Monterrey is to win this game, it would actually be León as the best Liga MX team who would take that spot. So can maybe Philadelphia use that to their advantage and give me some of that fight they didn't show against Miami? Perhaps. But I think Monterrey would be the team I would choose for this game.
All right, business end of the schedule in Major League Soccer. Halftime with Niko Moreno at Sports Pulso and at the Soccer Bar at El Rolo and W on the 280-character app, or as we've started to refer to it as, we had to kind of think of something cute. So what did we do? We decided to start quoting ZZ Top when it comes to hearing things on the 280-character app. There you go. So you hear it on the X. You hear it on the X, or maybe you're like Shawn Michaels and Triple H. So business end of the schedule for everybody but a couple of teams this weekend, and we've got Hellas Real, NYC Minnesota United, Red Bulls DC United, the Old Atlantic Cup. You've got Canadian Classique with Toronto and CF Montreal. And I'm going to reserve a Toronto point here in a second. Chicago, Orlando, Houston, Portland, St. Louis. We got all caps hosting Austin, LAFC, and Colorado. LAG and RSL, a sneaky good matchup. Mm-hmm. Seattle and Atlanta, and I know we'll spend some time with that because Mike and Jason are heading your way to call the match there at Lumen, and Vancouver and San Jose. But from the business end of the schedule, which one of these matchups are you looking forward to seeing the most outside of catching up with Mike and Jason at Lumen for Seattle and Atlanta?
The St. Louis Austin is interesting. There were some cloud sightings at training, so interesting to see where he's at. Don't know if he'll start this one, but St. Louis City, who missed a hell of an opportunity to do more in Leagues Cup, has the opportunity to just focus on MLS play, maybe try to get that momentum back. Austin, also a lot of changes, a team that was trending in the right direction, but I think made a hell of a bad decision letting Fagundes go. So I'm interested to see how that plays out for Austin in general. Orlando City, Chicago is another good one. Papi, Oscar Pereja he's in a contract year. He needs to show something in order to get that contract extension. This is a good team. This is not a bad team, but they struggle to be consistent. They struggle to win despite all of this massive talent. So that's what I'm looking at. Chicago, on the other hand, once the manager came on, they played a lot better. Shaqiri's playing great. They showed what they could do here in Leagues Cup, staying a little bit and punching above their weight class, if you ask me. So that's an interesting one for me. LA Galaxy RSL, another good one for me, just because RSL was another team that just got pounded despite all this talent. Can they come in here against LA Galaxy, who they also added a couple of pieces? And that's one I want to watch in terms of how LA is going to come in and approach this game, and how RSL is going to continue to try to overwhelm teams with that attacking power. So that's a good one. And of course, we'll talk about Atlanta Sounders a little bit later. But those are the games I'm looking at in general senses.
Toronto, there's talk. Joshua Cloakey at The Athletic was mentioning that Toronto is looking for guys to fill in their coaching vacancy. And it sounds like that they're looking for two separate dudes because they are hopefully learning the lesson of what about Bob. John Herdman's name was mentioned. John Herdman's like, yeah, I'm interested. Yeah, we're having talks. John Herdman? John Herdman, the Canadian men's national team coach, who I think just changed his philosophy again now that we've changed days and his alarm went off. John Herdman for Toronto FC? Say it ain't so.
That's a terrible call. I mean, it's a terrible call. In terms of someone who has the experience to deal with egos, to try to figure out what he's going to do with the little talent that you have in that squad, someone who, like you said, changes philosophy or seems to be changing philosophy like he changes socks. I don't know, man. I really don't think that's the right way to go. Toronto is in a disarray, period. And I don't think it really matters who they bring in until the front office issues get resolved, man. And so it goes with the rest of the story. He fits in the displaced items or the lost and found. Sure, let's put him in there and see what he can do. But it's not going to change how bad this team is and how they're going to face the last 10 games of the season. All you're doing is seeing who in this roster is going to be good enough to keep for 2024. That's it, plain and simple.
All right, let's break down Atlanta and Seattle, and it is two teams that have some business to take care of to solidify spots and figure out where they're going to be. Juice boxes in this one. Seattle favored at a -111. Obviously, we know that it's difficult for teams to win on the road in Major League Soccer. Draws a +262, and Atlanta United's a +295 right now on the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. The way things stand right now, Seattle fourth in the West, 36 points, part of that gaggle that is right there. LAFC, RSL at 37, Seattle at 36, Austin ahead of San Jose on goal difference at 32 points. Basically, it's 5 teams separated by 5 points. Vancouver's right behind them at number 7 at 31. FC Dallas is at 30. Houston's at 29. So there's no real margin for error for folks that Seattle's looking over their shoulder at when you look at this matchup against Atlanta, when you've got a team in Atlanta right now, 7th in a crazy Eastern Conference where a win could get them as high as 4th at the end of the day. What are you staring at?
I think it's going to be a good game. I was talking to Brian Smetzer this week about these are two hungry teams. These are two teams that need a win, that need to get away from bad results, recent bad results. Obviously, they know each other well. Gonzalo, Brian. This Sounders team is trying to figure out how they can adjust to the last 10 games so they can play as good as they did in the first 5 games of this season. They're getting some soldiers back. Christian Roldan will feature, according to Brian Smetzer. It's fantastic news. Still makes me nervous about the concussion It's been so long. It's been so prolonged. Regardless of him being cleared, I think they're going to be very careful with him. Javier Arriaga, another player that they'll get back. It helps the depth of the team in general. But this is going to be a really good game. And it's going to depend on that attacking power. Can Raul Ruiz build the fire? Can he get that fire back from being that elite striker that he was a couple of years back? There was a inner squad this weekend. He scored 3 goals. He sounds like he is just chomping at the bit to get back out there and score some goals on an official game. So it's going to be interesting. But at the end of the day, I want you to give me the numbers on the draw, because I could almost guarantee you that whether it's a 1-1 or a 2-2, this game is going to be a draw. I just have a feeling about it, and I go with my gut on some of these. So I think this is going to be a draw. But it should be a fun game. I think the Sounders, with their midfield, can create a lot of difficult moments for Atlanta. And Atlanta, with their, at times, fluid play and talented Thiago Almada and Gigi, which I'm guessing he'll be back, I think they can create some problems for Seattle. That's why I think we're going to see a draw, but it could be a 2-2, 1-1 type of game.
All right, so the draw is a plus 262 in the composite, and since you mentioned 2-2, we'll go ahead and check the numbers. We'll check totals. We'll see what you're staring at here. Since you said 2-2, over under at 3.5 is a plus 217. So 2.5 is a minus 112. 3.5 is a plus 217. So that's your over right there. So my guess is you're going to go, if you were to have multiple juice boxes in different categories, you're going draw and you're going over, correct?
I think that's what I'm going to do. I think that you're going to see, like I said, a very fun game, entertaining, but fans are not going to be happy with a draw on either side. I don't think. I can tell you for a fact that Sounder fans are not going to be excited about getting the draw. Atlanta fans, I'm not so sure, but this is 2 teams that they really had the desire to win, and I could see them maybe being a little bit more of a gambling and maybe trying a little more things in this one, not playing as safe. So that's what I'm saying. I got a big feeling that this is going to be one of those games. Uh-oh.
Vlatko Andonovski officially out. He is resigned as the national team head coach. Quote, "It's been the honor of my life to coach the talented, hardworking players of the USWNT for the past 4 years. I'm very optimistic for the future of this program, especially considering all the young players that got opportunities over the past few years who will no doubt be leaders and impact players moving forward." So it is officially official. Vlatko is Vlat gone. So that
one was written in stone. No, I mean that was kind of an obvious move, and you might as well just walk out before they walk you out. So yeah, it's more than understanding after the debacle that was the U.S. women's national team in the World Cup. Colombia also fell, man. I wanted it so bad, man. They got up early to watch that England game, and they just couldn't do it. But good for the Colombian women. They did a fantastic job representing, for sure.
What is going on at the Soccer Bar and at Pulso Sports? Cut the promo for me.
All righty, Soccer Bar. We're going to be breaking down some of this League Cup semifinals. We're going to obviously talk about the big final. That's going to happen here at 1 p.m. We might have Jorge Armando from DT USA talking to us about Miami. In Pulso, you can go ahead and find, we got Yemar Gomez Andrade talking about how this team is going to restart. We have Paul Rothrock, recently signed as a Tacoma Defiance player onto the Seattle Sounders. Great kid, great story. Talks about the first person he called with his dad, and his dad was his biggest fan. And His dad at one point was trying to email Liverpool to get him out there. I mean, it was just such a great story. A guy that's really fought hard to get where he's at. And I think he's a player that it's interesting. A lot of fire, a lot of desire, high motor kid. So definitely check that out at Pulso. We also have a little bit of NFL if you're interested in that. I don't know if this is the place to look at it, but we got a couple of Seattle Seahawk interviews. Easop Winston, WSU receiver. We talked to him this week, so check that out as well.
The man who's loose on the Palouse. I know how this works. Besides, it's football and it's football. It's universal. We work at that.
It's my first love, and then the mistress. Soccer, first love.
It's right there with
NFL
you,
is right there.
So if you would please give your best to Mike and Jason when you see them on Sunday afternoon. They're at Lumen. It'll be the chance to catch up with them. And it'll be good for the three of you to break bread and see each other. Really looking.
Jason picks up my phone calls, man. See, I gotta make sure that he Hollywood now. He over there doing the big timers now. John still invites me. Jason, man, come on, where are you at, Jason?
Jason's a busy man. He's attending practices at the same time that the show is going on. He's got to get smart. He's got to be up there at the Niko level of smartness, especially after X number of cups of coffee. As always,
but yeah, tell him I'll be there. I'll say hi. I'll come over to the booth, say hello to him for sure.
No doubt about it. Looking forward to it, my friend. We will catch up with you again next Thursday. Sounds like a plan?
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me, and we'll see you guys next week.
What he said. It's the end of the show. 9:00 tomorrow morning. We'll be back at it. It is our friends at Beyond Goals. I think it's Michael Parkhurst's turn. Jessica Charman talking Women's World Cup. She's going to be gnashing her teeth for about 15 minutes, and then we got Weekend Whip Around Patent Pending Trademark coming where we go through all of the stuff on the weekend for Niko, for Bart, for Jarrett, for who did I miss this morning? Who came on early? Did we do it? I'm blanking. Who was our guests? Bart came on, and it was Bart, and it was Jarrett, and Bart, Jarrett, and Niko. That was the show. Man, I'm blanking. That means I need caffeine. For Niko, for everybody here, we'll see you at 9:00 tomorrow morning. It's the end of the show. Mucho Plati. I'll play it safe. It means I get to do this.